Welcome to the Recovery Centered Podcast, the space for honest conversation about healing, hope, and the journey through mental health and addiction recovery. Each episode, we sit down with people making a difference, from therapists and researchers to change makers and to survivors. Now, to explore what recovery really looks like in the world. This podcast is produced in collaboration with Beachway Therapy Center. Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Recovery Center Podcast. My name's Tim Roberto, and our guest today is Drew Masters. Welcome, Drew, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you here. I always find you so easy to talk to. And I hope that transpires, to the people that listen to this, because this has quite a big reach. So, hey, welcome to the
Thank you.
show.
Thank you. And feel privileged to have this opportunity and to have a platform to actually speak on and everything. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome, and thank you for your service. Drew is a Fort Lauderdale firefighter. How many years you been on now?
With Fort Lauderdale, 10 years, but in total 17.
Yeah, thank you very much. And now your peer support.
So I'm one of the peer support coordinators with Broward County with their CISM team. I was their coordinator for about 4 or 5 years, but I'm still very active in deployments with CISM and peer all over the state pretty much.
Oh, wow. What is CI? What is C? It's a tongue twister for me.
So CISM is the critical incident stress management and everything. It's one of the 4 pillars that we like to kind of go off of when it comes to mental health, when it comes to, um, you know, having a program and everything set. So you have CISM, you have peer, you have chaplaincy, and then you have your clinicians.
Oh, gotcha.
So under the clinicians, and peers, we also have the canine program that comes off. We've found out that canines are phenomenal, especially bringing them into the firehouse. We
Absolutely.
found out that us, PD, the dispatchers, and even the nurses in the hospital and the doctors love when the dogs come. They forget about us and
Yeah.
go right for the dog, which is good.
Yeah.
But that's the branches that we like to use. And once we deploy, depending on what the incident is, we kind of like to have a mixture of maybe one of each category, just so that we have everything covered. And sometimes it's nice to have an outside view of someone that's not
Yeah.
in the fire service.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. 100%. Um, when you said deployed, like, is that something that you do uh, per call? Like, if the call warrants it, you're there already supporting, kind of thing, or?
So the way we do it in our department is we have a list of certain calls that are generally automatic deployments to what we would call, which would be death of injury, serious injury of a coworker, anything to do with a pediatric death, any type of what we call newsworthy event that could be out there, a lot of
Mm,
media coverage,
mm,
or anything that maybe the crew deems necessary.
mm.
And what we'll do is we'll contact the regional CISM team, which is made up of peers and CISM members from around the county. Also, their clinicians, canine handlers, chaplains, and we'll bring them in to talk to the crews. It doesn't have to be a long, drawn out thing.
Mm.
It could be 15, 20 minutes, but it's an opportunity for the crews to kind of just unload that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then once we're done with that, what we'll do is if the departments that we've responded to have a peer team, we'll reach out to their peer teams, let them know that, hey, we're doing this. And then as peer teams, we reach out to them a couple days later just to make sure and
That
everything.
follow-up so
Then
important,
follow up.
isn't it, right?
We've also done deployments for major incidents across the state. I was deployed also down there for almost a week for Surfside when the building collapse happened, which we did the walk
Yeah.
down to.
Yeah.
And then we had right after that, Surfside was kind of the foundation for a peer deployment where we were actually had mental health on scene of an active incident. We were deployed again to Hurricane Ian on the West Coast. And it was the actual first time where we actually had our own FEMA direct orders as a mental wellness collaborative to be sent out and everything. And we had members from all over the state that were out there on the front lines with the task force trying to do whatever we could to help out and
Yeah.
everything. And not only just visiting the stations, visiting the task force, but also talking to the guys that couldn't get off a shift and going by their houses, seeing what they needed, working with different members,
Yeah.
there was a lot of damage over there. So
Yeah, a lot of awkward, awful, uncomfortable moments too, right?
yeah, oh yeah.
That come with damage. Like, it's kind of like that word, you hear the word damage, and I just think of, I don't know about mayhem, but there's a lot of stuff messed up,
Yeah.
and a lot of people hurting or um I hear because I work maybe with first responders, maybe more than my neighbor does kind of thing,
Mhm.
and I hear that the when the child, when there's a child involved, I hear that that can be one of the calls that kind of puts guys over the edge, puts gals over the edge.
Yeah. Well, that's one of those ones where it's like it's kids aren't supposed to die.
Yeah.
You know, I've experienced numerous calls in my career of, you know, running that pediatric code and everything. It's always high stress. It's always one of
Yeah.
those calls where things kind of be a little bit more urgent and everything because,
Yeah.
the child isn't supposed to be in that type of situation,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
you know,
It's like human nature, right? Just
it
just
is.
gets you like, and I mean, firefighters are moms and dads
Hmm.
too. So
And
like,
there's a saying out there that your first pediatric code when you have kids, for some reason the child might be the same age and look like your child too. So you
yeah,
kind of have that personal type of connection to it.
yeah,
So it's like one of those unwavering sayings that are
yeah,
out there and everything. And I think the worst ones are the traumatic injuries,
yeah,
the ones that are preventable. The drownings.
yep, yep,
Being in South
yep,
Florida, we lead the nation in drownings, and it's,
yeah,
they do swim lessons at such a young age and
yeah,
everything, and a lot of them are free.
yeah, yeah,
I know in our area, we had a lot of infant deaths due to sleep safe babies getting smothered or
yeah,
just suffocating with stuff in the cribs and everything. And one of our captains came up with a program on how to prevent that.
yeah,
So, we have packets that we have on our trucks that we give out to new parents and everything. Like, hey, just here's some
yeah.
information.
Yeah, thank God for the first responders. I mean, seriously, I'm listening to you explain, some of the protocols and some of the things you have in place, and I'm thinking, if anybody's going to do it the way it should be done, it would be, say, a firefighter or a first responder, just through like experience alone. Like when you see it over and over and over and over and over again, you can come up with these amazing, like you said, you just hand out simple brochures
Mhm,
and it just makes people think. Like so
mhm,
many people don't think, and you guys are like hyper vigilant. To so many different situations and scenarios and circumstances, and it's just I'm just really grateful, and I'm grateful I get to work with the first responders in a very unique way.
it's one of those things, we're fortunate enough to where people open their homes to us.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we're going to people's homes on their worst times. No one calls the fire department because good things are happening.
Yeah.
And, but they
Well,
trust us.
yeah.
I heard I was taking a class once and I heard the instructor, he said, "What other profession would do you know that a mom would come running out and hand you her child
Mm,
when it's in distress?"
mm,
And, we all sat there and thought about that. Like, yeah, that's kind of true. Like, and there's just saying out there, like you were talking about, like, we're always out there and everything,
yeah,
we kind of have to try and figure it out no matter what resources we need to find because there is no 912.
yeah,
There is, who does the fire department call if the fire department can't figure it out, or the police department?
yeah,
We are,
yeah,
a lot of times we are it. And,
yeah.
it maybe is something as simple as just shutting off the water heater for him.
And I think that's something that always morphs too, you're right? Like protocols
Mhm.
or new trainings. That's why trainings, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, they're never the same. I mean, yes, specific trainings, yes, but there's always new trainings
Hmm.
because there's something always new happening that even maybe a first responder like wasn't prepared
Yeah.
for. Like, whoa, I never had that, right? Like it's forever evolving, forever changing. I guess the only constant in life is change, really, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think if you feel in the fire service that you feel like you know everything, it's time for you to leave
yeah, wow,
because
that's deep. Yeah.
there's always stuff going on. There's always new procedures going on. Like for us, we have brand new protocols that just went into play within the last year that we're all learning. Now administering whole blood to patients in the
Cold
food.
blood?
Whole blood.
Oh, whole blood.
So, we have whole blood that we have access to that we can give to maybe a trauma patient or someone that has a massive bleed. We're giving TXA, which was a military style based drug to help, basically help with the clotting factors. And we're
Wow.
even going from the old school techniques of where we would put a needle in someone's chest to reinflate their lung to where we're now actually cutting them open on their ribs to reinflate it because we're finding out that studies are showing that that's a better procedure for them. So we're actually talking with all the
Incredible.
trauma surgeons and everything like that. And the trauma surgeons are even like, if I would have had this years ago, our save rates would have been a lot more than they are. I mean,
Amazing.
when you look at someone that goes into a traumatic cardiac arrest, they have a less than 1% chance of survival, which now I think the numbers are going to start right because now we're giving whole blood, we're doing more procedures in the field.
Yeah.
We at a young age in EMT school, you're taught about the golden hour. The time from the injury happening to the time they meet a trauma surgeon, their chances of survival are greater if we get them there within an hour.
Wow.
But you think an hour, oh, that's a long time. But now you think of you get into a car accident on 95.
Yeah.
Say we've got to use the jaws of life that we were speaking about earlier,
Yeah.
cut you out 20-30 minutes. So now you're thinking you're already at that 35-40 minute mark before you're even out of the car. And now, okay, now we have another 5 or 6 minutes to get you to the hospital. And in some places, they may even have to fly you to a hospital because the trauma center is not that close. And you're already pushing that 50-minute mark. So, that hour goes really quickly when things happen.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine, like, I can scroll and waste an hour like that,
Yeah.
on a Sunday afternoon just
Hmm.
screwing around. Like, whoa, that was quick,
Yeah.
I just thinking I'm listening to you, I'm like, "Oh my god, an hour. Gosh, that would amazing
Yeah.
what gets accomplished though,
Yeah.
like, in an hour. What's the difference between EMT and paramedic?"
So EMT is kind of like they're everyone's technically an EMT. They're considered what's called an EMTB, which is an EMT basic, which is you have to be before a paramedic. And then there's what's called an EMTI, which is an intermediate, which here in the state of Florida we don't really use. We go straight to an EMTP, which is the paramedic. Pretty much the difference is an EMTB is basic life support. They can do, CPR. Most of the time they're driving the trucks, basic trauma management and everything. And then the paramedic is where they come into where, you're able to read EKGs, give more medications, you're able to do
Do that.
the
Yeah.
surgery thing and
Yeah.
everything, and even, things like a couple months ago, in 17 years, I did my first cricothotomy on a patient, which is cutting a hole in the throat to give them an airway. And
Like, on a call, like
on an actual call I did in the back of our truck, actually, as we pulled into the ramp of the trauma center, I needed to get this guy an airway. The medications weren't working, so
yeah.
it was funny, me being the officer on the truck, we had the engine company driving us in because of how serious the call was. And
Wow.
he just opens up the back door and all he sees me is holding the intubation tube and a scalpel. And he's like, "Are you about to do what I think you're?" I'm like, "Yep, time to go." And
Yeah.
we did it and off
Yeah.
we went.
What does that do to you yeah, to you or like other people that have done that in that moment? Like, does it take a while to come down from something like that or come back from something like that or it's really not as bad as it sounds? Like,
It's one of those things where it doesn't happen that often. Some people do it more than others. It's just, but for me on that call, my adrenaline level was high on that call. I was calm, but my adrenaline level was high, and it took me a little bit to kinda my mind thought after the call as we were going through it, I was writing the report and everything was more of just like, "I can't believe I just did that." And one of the PD officers that I'm good friends with, you know, she had never seen that before, and they were like, "Did you really just put a tube in someone's throat?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, we didn't know
Incredible.
that you could do that." And I'm like, it's part of our skills though. Like
Yeah.
that's something we have to brush up on
Yeah.
every once in a while because, as they say, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Do you think it takes a certain person or any qualified person that's been through training can do it? Or you don't know until it gets to that point, like where it's showtime or I bail? Like, I don't.
I think it's like you said it until it's showtime. But the thing is because we work as teams and everything, it could be the
Mm,
newest medic to the most senior medic
mm,
that could be there. But guess what? If my new medic's gonna do something like that, I'm gonna be sitting right there with him, coaching him, making sure he's good, and walking him through it because, unless you actually do it, he may be better at it than I am. He may have
mm.
more confidence in himself than I do.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's a job we have to do and we get it done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what, I mean, not to go too deep into that moment for you, but like, did you have to do anything when you were like done? Like, did you have to regroup? Did you have to go meditate? Did you have to go get a cheeseburger? Did you was there a need to soothe in any way or?
It was more of just, we kinda hung out in the trauma room, seeing what was going on with the
At the
patient at the
hospital?
hospital, and then I sat down with my crew in the EMS room, which is like a room that the hospital provides us. They normally provide us like some water, some drinks, some
Yeah,
snacks.
yeah,
And I did have some newer people on my truck.
yeah,
And, I just sat down and I talked to them. I'm like, hey, any questions on this call? And people wanted to ask questions on like, oh, why did we do this?
mm,
Why did this? Why? And we just went over the call. And you know what? That little talk after of just our cruise
yeah.
was phenomenal.
But the bottom line is you did it to save the person's life,
Well, trying
right?
to.
Or
Yeah,
try.
yeah.
Okay.
But it's one of those things that it is kind of like a last effort. That's
Yeah,
like last ditch, like, okay,
gotcha.
we've
Yeah.
tried everything else,
So, well, like everything else, so you gave him like maybe some injections,
we ended up
CPR, that kind of.
so there was no CPR in this one. He was actually still he was still breathing. He still had a pulse.
Okay.
He just was suffering from a massive head injury, and
Uh,
he had all the signs of a massive head
uh,
injury. And we gave him a drug called etomidate, which is something that can loosen up if what's called trismus, which is pretty much lockjaw. And the medication still didn't work. And I was watching his vital signs on the monitor and they started dropping and everything. So that's when I made the decision that,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
he's not getting adequate oxygen into his system. I need to do something to make
Mhm.
that play, and it falls on me as the officer in charge that's my call too.
Yeah,
And you take recommendations from your crew,
yeah, yeah.
hey, what about this? What about this? And we talked about it on the way. I looked at my crew and I'm like, anyone have any ideas before we go through with this?
Yeah,
Because we always look
yeah.
at it may be something I don't see that they see. So
Yeah, and everybody has, like, their own, process, their own
mhm.
intellect, their own instincts, right? Their own, yeah. Boy, I'll tell you, man,
Mhm.
thank God for people like you,
They also
you know?
the department did ask after that call, like, did we want
Yeah.
a deployment type thing? Because it is,
It's
but
intense, yeah.
but I went back and we talked to some people that are on the peer team.
Yeah.
They called me and they're like, "You good?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good."
Yeah, yeah,
And it
yeah.
was just moved on from it.
Yeah, but I think because of your position over 17 years and you're, in the peer support program, like, I think if anybody's good, it'd probably be you because if you weren't, you would do what you teach others to do when they're not good, right?
Yeah,
I
but
think,
it's
right?
also one of those things, and I learned this going through my struggles,
Mm,
is you can't always be the person that's good. You have to actually admit that stuff is bothering you,
mhm.
and you know, as we know, compassion fatigue is a real thing. I definitely fell into the compassion fatigue because I was always, listening to everyone else's stuff. And I had stuff in the background that was pretty heavy for me, and it was just piling on. And, I didn't I was like you said, I was always I'm good. I'm good. I'm
Mm.
good. I'm good.
Just blowing it off.
But I wasn't. I
Mm.
wasn't good.
Yeah, inside you were crumbling.
And people started to notice it, and that was my second kind of bout that I had with
Mm.
depression and getting there. And it was pretty. It took a captain calling me out on scene to actually have like a little moment where I was like, "Oh man, I'm the one that needs help now. I'm the one that needs this help and
Mm.
everything." And it was I had 3 major incidents happen within a almost like a 2 to 3 month span. I lost my nephew at 7 years old to a brain tumor. The next week, right after that, I was deployed to Surfside. And then a month or 2 after that, I was dealing with a breakup.
Mm.
So I just had these 3 things where I was,
Yeah.
that were 3 pretty big punches and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
And I'm also dealing with all the other mental wellness stuff. And I look back at that time and people were telling me, they're like, "You're an a-hole right now." It's like I wasn't listening to it.
Yeah.
But then walked in on this call, and the captain looks at me and goes, "Hey, um, she's kind of hungover. She wants to go to the hospital." And I just looked at him, and I take a very pride in my uniform when I'm at work. Shirt tucked in, boots are
Yeah.
good,
Yeah.
radio straps good to go.
Yep. Yep.
I was like 5 o'clock shadow, boots tucked into my pant leg, dragging the like just a
Yeah.
mess because
Man.
I didn't care. And he looked at me and he goes, "She wants to go to the hospital. She's just kind of hungover." And my exact phrase to him was, "I don't see how that's my effing problem." And he yanked me outside and he's like, "I've heard the rumors. You need to check yourself. What's going on?" I didn't believe it, but I'm seeing it now. And luckily enough, that night I was working a 12-hour shift. I was working a 12-hour overtime shift, and this was towards the end of it. As soon as I was done with that shift, it started to sink in, and I ended up driving out to one of our beach stations and going across to the beach and just kind of sitting on the beach. I actually sat there for hours, and it clicked. And the next morning, I ended up making 3 phone calls. One of them was to a clinician that I met in the class that I started teaching, this gentleman, Sean. Sean is phenomenal. He has fully immersed himself into the first responder world and everything. And we talked a little bit. Then I called one of my good friends, Candace, who is now a captain for Coral Springs. We did a lot of the peer support mental wellness work together. And we started talking, and I'm just like, we would always bounce stuff off of each other, like, "Hey, I need this, I need that."
Yeah. Yeah.
So I call just, "Hey, I need help." And she's like, "Okay, what do you got?" And I'm like, "No, no, Candace, I need help."
Oh wow.
And she starts crying on the other end of the line.
No.
And I'm like, "Why are you crying?" She's like, "You don't know how long we've been waiting for this phone call."
No.
And I'm like, "Well, why didn't you say something?" And she's like, "'Cause you know that if you're not ready for the help, you're not gonna take it."
Mm.
So we talked for a little bit. My next phone call was to our department chaplain, which was Father Ron Perkins, who we unfortunately lost back in July.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And we talked for a little bit and everything. And then they both recommended calling Sean back. And I called Sean back and we talked some more. And he kind of said the same thing that Candace said. He's like, "We've kind of been waiting for this phone call." And I'm like, "Why does everyone know about this phone call except for me? Why don't I know about my own?"
Yeah.
And
Gee.
the next day I was in his office. He
Oh
pretty
wow.
much said, "If you're not in my office tomorrow, I'm bringing the cops to come and get you." He said he heard the pain and just
Mm.
the
Yeah.
the suffering in my voice and
Yeah.
everything.
Good for him.
And we went from kind of sitting in his office once a week to where we went twice a week. And then we didn't even meet in his office anymore. We would meet at a diner for breakfast, and then we'd both fight over who's paying for
Uh,
breakfast and
uh,
everything. And
uh.
that's the thing when clinicians want to work
Yep.
with first responders, it may not be in the office on the couch that you're going to meet. It may be, you know, at a diner, at a parking lot, a coffee shop or something. We have weird hours.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
may be something where,
Yeah.
hey, can I meet you at 8:30 in the morning when I get off a shift? And, we taught that in the class of like,
Mm.
and it's funny, like when I would mention that we would go to a diner and have a session, I'd look at all the faces and all the clinicians would be, "Oh my God, you're not sitting on the couch and it's not in an office." And it's like, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, that's not my yeah, I like that style better.
And the best part is so when we did the class, and I know we spoke about it, is
Yeah.
one of the parts of the class is what we do is we put them in full bunker gear.
Yep.
We'll put them on a SCBA tank and
Yep.
we'll send them into a Hollywood smoked up room
Yeah.
to search it.
Yeah.
Well, now you lose your ability to see.
That's what happened to me.
Your height of hearing is kind of up because now you're breathing off of the tanks and
Yeah.
everything. You lose the sense of touch because now you have the gloves on and everything, and you're hot, you're sweaty, you're kind of running through. And when I was running the drill, I would tell them like there may or may not be someone in here. There may or may not be a victim in here. And they're like, "Well, aren't you going to tell us?" I'm like, "Well, when I go search this building, I don't know if there's someone in there.
Yeah.
I have to go figure out for myself."
Yeah.
Normally there's a victim in there because I want to see him try and
Mm.
work and everything. And what that translates to is I want the clinicians to have that feeling of hopelessness and what do we do? Because that's the same feeling that we may have coming to your office.
Mm.
We have SOPs for everything. We have SOPs on how to change the toilet paper. Does it go over or under,
Yeah.
And we don't have SOPs to come sit in your office. Do we drink the water? Do we drink the coffee? Do we sit
What
on
are
the couch? Do we
SOP
put a
what are SOPs?
SOP is a standing operated procedure or SOG guideline? So like we have everything. This is how we run
Yeah.
this call. This is how we do this. This is how we do
Yeah.
this. But when we come to your office, it's new and we don't have anything to tell us.
Heck yeah.
So it could be a little intimidating. And
Yeah.
plus the fact that we know that when you're coming to someone's office, I give you a lot of credit. You've admitted that you have an issue that you want to go talk about, but until you actually experience, everyone has that fear of the unknown. It's an unknown for us.
Yeah, for sure, man.
And, even me going to see Sean, even though I was friends with him and I knew him, I was still nervous walking into his office.
Yeah.
It's like, do I take my shoes off and lay on the couch? Is he, what's he writing on that notepad and everything? I mean, we've heard horror stories
Yeah.
of stuff, but with this class that we've taught, I've been able to meet some amazing friends and resources that we've had out there. We spoke before we started recording of Natalia on the West
Yep.
Coast.
Yep.
She's phenomenal, and
Yeah, she is.
she took our class and she just grasped onto the first responder
Yeah.
world and everything. I know her husband's a police
Please.
officer,
Yep. Yep.
and she's gone out and done ride times on her own and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And those are the type of resources that I like because I like to vest people that I'm going to send my members to.
Yep.
I don't want to send my members to some random person that's not going to care, that's just looking, oh, we have insurance, here you go.
Yeah.
Because we've had issues with that,
Yeah.
and
100%.
even like right in our own backyard here in Palm Beach, there's Erin. Erin is phenomenal. I don't know if you've ever met Erin. She has a company, deep rooted psychotherapy.
I know the Aaron what yep.
Erin took our class also. Her
Yep.
staff is phenomenal.
Yep.
I've been able to call her up, bounce things off of her and everything. Those are the type of relationships that I like having with these clinicians and everything. And I think they understand it that, okay, we're a little bit different to where when something happens, we needed it yesterday, not 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Aaron, Natalia, Sean, all of them I bring in high regards
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything.
Yeah, you're
And
wonderful.
departments in their areas, need to have them, reach out and
Yeah.
work with them
Yeah.
and everything. It's been a blessing for me that I've been able to go around and speak about my past and everything. We spoke about the one I went through when I had the three major incidents, but
Mm.
the biggest one was, you know, I've kind of been down that road of suicide,
Yeah.
and I had a suicide attempt. Luckily, it's an attempt, but that has put me on a journey to where I get to sit today, and I am actually grateful for everything that I've been through, the people I've been able to meet, the hopefully the difference I've been able to make in people's lives. And that
Yeah.
was a whole I would want to say that was probably one of the darkest times in my life and everything.
Yeah.
I worked for a smaller department down in Dade County for a few years,
Yeah.
transferred up to another department, and 3 days after Christmas, I ended up losing my job. I was on probation, and I ended up losing my job. I didn't do anything bad, didn't do it like I was on probation again, and I failed a written test, and I was terminated for it, and I spent the next 3 years kind of applying for jobs all out throughout the state, from Jacksonville all the way down to the Keys, and it was, you know, I'm going in there with almost 6 years experience, 'cause I was 5 years with my other department, I had made it 9, 10 months in this on probation, all these different certifications, all these different classes, and it's like, I'd be scoring top on these lists and everything, taking these tests, and then I'd get so far in the process and, "Oh, no, sorry, we're going a different route. We're going a different route. We're going a different route." And it took towards the end, I was right there with 2 departments, and it was like Monday morning, one called me and said, "No, we pulled your job offer." And I'm like, "Okay." And I had a mentor that I was working with a lot. There's a lot of people that wanted to help me, but he was a captain at the time. Now he's one of my battalion chiefs, Danny Moran. And he'll probably kill me for mentioning him because he hates when I say this and everything, because it's like he's one of the reasons why I'm still in the fire service. Like, I would come by his fire station for lunch. He'd have me train with him and his crews and everything, just to keep my skills up and everything. And
Yeah, good for him.
on that Monday, the one department called, then the Tuesday, the second department called. And I had no other applications out and everything. And I called him up and I'm like, Demo, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I'm over it. I'm tired. I'm just
Mm.
the no's. They're just overwhelming. And this was a 3-year gap to where I was trying to find anything just to make money. I started delivering pizzas for one of our guys that owned a pizza shop and everything. But I get what people were doing, but it kind of had a reverse role on it too, where I'd be delivering to guys that I used to work with,
Oh man.
and they'd throw a little extra on the tip because they knew what I was going through and everything. But it's like, in my head, I didn't want to be someone's charity case,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah, for sure.
one of the biggest things also that kind of set me down the road of, I wouldn't say set me down the road, but played a role was, I felt as if I was a failure to my family. I felt I had let them down. I didn't want to be a burden to them anymore. And, I didn't see it as a way out. I just saw it as, I don't want to be that burden anymore.
Was the fire service in your family?
So I'm related to 2 cops actually. So I'm the smart one in the family, becoming the fireman.
Yeah.
Um, I joke with my dad and brother all the time about it, and, I tell them, I'm like, I was the smart one when we dug the hole.
Yeah.
I climbed the ladder and actually got out. And, my dad jokes. He's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, maybe if I did it all over again, I'd." But it's like, no, that's for them. My brother does great work in the police service
Yeah,
and
it's
everything.
awesome. Yeah.
He
It's a tough
he's
job.
he's one that can't really handle needles or blood. So it's like, okay, maybe you're in the right side
Yeah,
of it.
yeah.
But it's when we were dealing with that, it was just like, the resources weren't there. Peer support, mental wellness wasn't really that big. And we're only talking about 14, 15 years ago now. And there wasn't anything there.
Mm.
Where now, when I went through my other stuff, you mentioned it about, I had kind of the knowledge and everything, where it kind of stopped me from getting to that point.
Mm.
But even I had the blinders up where I didn't realize that I'm the one that needs the help now. And that's kind of what my goal and my mission is, I now go around speaking. I've been lucky enough to kind of speak in actually different places around the country. I've spoken up in Chicago, up in Orlando, and
Yeah, it's great.
all these different conferences. And I kind of looked at, what do I want to name it, what do I want to, and I came up with, especially being here in South Florida, coming out of the storm.
There you go.
And people are like, "Oh, a tornado." And I'm like, "No, not a tornado,"
Yeah.
because a tornado kind of happens real quick and it's sudden. I more look at it as a hurricane.
Mm.
When a hurricane starts forming out there, you get that cone of concern that comes towards you,
Mm.
that anxiety starts building. And
Yeah.
that's what I relate that to. That's everything inside of you building and everything.
Yeah.
And then the hurricane hits. Now that's you going through crisis. Everything's falling apart. Your house is getting torn up. It's the
Yeah.
worst time you're in.
Yeah.
But then afterwards, normally after a hurricane, we've all been through hurricanes. It's some of the best weather we've ever had.
That's
You know,
crazy,
it's
right?
it's
Yeah.
sunny, it's
Yeah.
it's cool.
Yeah.
You walk outside and I kind of bring that as the new normalcy. It's now you go outside, your neighbor brings you the mailbox. Hey, I found your mailbox in my pool. And that neighbor bringing you your mailbox is I did okay. Now you're getting help. Now you're getting used to the new normalcy
Mm,
of going to get help.
mm.
And also realizing as a peer member, some people don't need to go see clinicians. They just want to vent.
Yeah.
Let them vent.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I get more calls now for people to go see clinicians of, "Hey man, I'm good. I'm no, I don't feel like doing any of this, but I just want someone to go talk to."
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, here you go. And that's where people
yeah.
like Natalia, Aaron, Sean,
Yep,
Becky from Coral Springs
yep,
come into play because I can shoot them a text, I can send them an email.
yep.
Hey, I got someone up in Palm Beach. Can you recommend someone for him? Can I have you call him? Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the type of thing that we need and everything. And my big thing that helped me when I was going through my struggles was, and I actually got hired by the Florida Panthers. And I worked for them for 8 years doing community relations stuff where we were working with um, the Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCA's, a lot of veteran stuff. They're very military driven
Yeah.
at the Panthers, and we
Yeah.
were doing a lot of stuff with them, a lot of stuff kind of with kids too, of helping them learn and grow the game of hockey in South Florida. And being able to go to the games afterwards was just like kind of like my out. It still is,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I made some amazing friends that at the Panthers and everything. One of my best friends, John, works there and everything. And, I've made some lifelong friends there between John, both Matts, Smitty, just the ones that are there, Sean, Monica, like those are lifelong
Yeah.
friends. And then it's funny how things kind of work. I'm a true believer in things happen for a reason.
Oh, 100%.
That
For
I've
sure.
now met another group of friends that are in the fire service, but that was all through the mental wellness stuff where,
Mm,
we're just like, as my friend Lisi calls it, it's her circle, her
mm.
tribe. And her husband, they went through a tragedy themselves. And one thing that resonated with me when he was speaking was don't be afraid to tell people you love them. He goes, because you never know when you're not going to have that opportunity.
It's so funny too. It's like one of the hardest things for people to do, isn't it?
It is.
It's I always found that so, I don't know, strange. Maybe I'll just use strange for now, but I just found that so strange. Like,
But why?
uh, that's the ultimate question
Yeah.
or the $1,000,000, like, why is that so hard?
Yeah.
Is it because a lot of us were never told ourselves, so it makes us uncomfortable or something? Like,
I
you
think
know?
it's almost people don't want to be stereotyped or put into a category. I tell the guy Steve who said it, you know,
Yeah.
normally we'll end a phone call or hey, love you, buddy.
Yeah.
It's not putting you anywhere, but
But it's true though, no? Like,
there's
right?
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I wanna get back to the, when you had the 3-year,
Hmm.
uh spit gap
Yeah.
there with the probation, and then Captain
Hmm.
Danny was hooking you up, then you're delivering pizzas, and now you're starting to see some of the guys that you've either
Yeah.
associated with or whatever. It was getting you closer to that day. What happened? I'm really curious. Like, so in that spit, did you get a call all of a sudden after all these no's?
So what ended up happening is the regime at the department changed, and there was a lot of people that kind of didn't agree with what
Ah,
happened to me.
ah,
And you know Demo actually was the one that said it one day, and another gentleman I used to work with at another department, Nelson, they were like, have you reached out to the fire chief, the new fire chief? And I'm like, no, and I called him just on a whim and spoke to him, and he didn't realize how much trouble I was having getting hired. He thought I would be able to get picked up straight away. And he ended up talking with the city commission at the time and everything, and they ended up pulling my termination and backdating to a resignation, which was I didn't know at the time was a start of them being able to rehire me.
ah,
I reapplied, and went through the whole interview process again, tested and everything. And
Yeah, yeah.
then one of the next classes I was hired in, but you know, they were telling me like you have to start from day one again. And I'm like, I don't care. I have a job.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah, yeah,
And it took me a little bit to get back to where I was comfortable because I was walking on
yeah.
eggshells. People would tell me like, "Oh, you're walking." I'm like, "Well, yeah, but I think I have a different perspective on the fire service and what the job actually means now because I've lost it all and had to fight to get it back." I've I had a fire chief one day ask me during an interview, and he said to me, he goes, I want you to answer this question for me. He goes, but you can't use your experience as an answer. He goes, it's the only thing I'm going to change for you. He goes, why should I hire you versus all these other candidates that we're hiring? And you can't use your experience. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, man, this guy stole my answer because that's a big deal. And I asked him like, can I sit here and think about it for a little bit? And he's like, yeah, sure. And then finally, it clicked, and I'm like, I could have as many certifications as I want.
Mm.
Those are just file in a paper, whatever. I go, but what anyone in your process doesn't have, or which I hope they don't have, is the urge to fight to get back. Because I can guarantee you, you give me an opportunity to put me on that truck, you're going to have someone that's never going to take it for granted. You're going to be able to look out your window and see
Ooh,
me get on that truck and be damn proud that you put me on that truck
what a
because I'm going to
great
do whatever.
return.
And I'm sitting there going, because I believe in that. And the jokes are always there. Like we joke with people, like, a
Yeah,
fire truck should be red, not
yeah,
white, green, whatever color and
yeah.
everything. But at the end of the day, I'm one of those people that believes we all do the job. It's the same. When you put on the bunker gear and you have that mask on,
Heck yeah.
you don't know whether that person's white, black, male, female, whatever. You just know they're a firefighter.
Yeah,
You can't tell. And
yeah,
guess what? You're gonna go do if it's a big enough incident, you're gonna you're gonna be there. Like, look at the one Miami-Dade just had a
yeah,
few days ago. They had 2 different departments
yeah.
there, working side by side. I've been on numerous incidents where I've been with other departments.
I love the way you put that too when the bunker gear's on, like you can't see, and when we can see, it's so in a way, it's awful, right? Like we can see, but it's so like our sight can be so
Mhm.
limited sometimes because of like you were talking about. You don't know if they're white, black,
Yeah.
female. And that's the thing I think where from my experience, what I continue to see is the camaraderie.
Oh, yeah.
As a Marine, that's what I loved about the Marine Corps, but through my own mental health. Mental health left untreated will take whatever it wants,
Yeah.
and it took the Marine Corps from me after 2.5 years, but that was the beginning of a spiral for me. Not the beginning, just put me down the hole deeper, right? Because
Mhm.
I never had camaraderie, and I know how good it is, and I know
Yeah.
how yeah, and I know how like powerful it can be, and
Mhm.
what I can do more with camaraderie versus maybe if it's just me and there's not that nonsense, "Oh, she's a girl," or "Oh, he's a black guy." Like there's just none of that
Yeah.
nonsense. And it's like there's so much freedom in there.
Yeah.
And like just, "Yo, what's up, man?" Like
Fire doesn't discriminate.
fire doesn't discriminate for
It's
real.
gonna burn, and it's gonna
Hell
it's
yeah.
gonna be hot, and
Yep.
it's gonna make you work hard, and it's not gonna discriminate and
No.
everything, and
That's what I love about the service.
and
Yeah.
neither does mental health.
100%.
It doesn't discriminate
Yeah.
on gender,
Yep.
race,
Yep.
or anything.
Yep.
I look at everyone, especially when I run my calls, everyone has a past, everyone has a story. A lot of people kinda don't wanna talk about their past or bring it up.
Yeah.
People saying, like, "You shouldn't live in the past."
Yeah.
Well, I only live in my past because I wanna remember where I came from
Yeah.
and where I'm at today.
Yeah.
I am so grateful for where I'm at today, which we've already said.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've been able to, ever since being back on the job, I've been back now 10 years since I lost my job. I just got vested, so, whew, I'm there. Halfway.
Woo! Keep
Yeah,
fighting, Drew.
I'm promoted.
Nice.
I got promoted 4 years ago to a lieutenant,
Yeah.
and, I've been able to do all these things with the
Yeah.
mental health stuff.
That's
I'm
great, man.
helping out with stuff in the department, and it's just like every once in a while I sit there and I'm like, "Wow, like like
Yeah.
what I was thinking then and going through there, like, made it all worth it to be here today.
Yeah.
And I look at it like, if my suicide attempt would have been completed, what else would have happened?
Yeah.
What would my family have gone through and everything? And,
And all the people that you've helped. Like, since you've been, since thank God you pulled out of that and you kept plugging away, you gave we everybody gives up in the moment sometimes or momentarily, but something got you back because it needed you. For me, it's a God thing, and you've been needed. Look at a difference in your advocacy. You're a firefighter. You're not supposed to, but you're still a human being too.
so I like, I'm glad you said it that way because, I like to say that even though I am a firefighter, I put on this uniform
Yeah,
and everything. I'm not Superman. At the end of the day, guess what? I take that
yeah,
uniform off. There's not a big S on my chest. I don't go to the bat cave, and
yeah, yeah,
I'm an ordinary person
yeah.
that finds
Doing
myself
extraordinary things.
in extraordinary situations.
Yeah.
And you know what? The human body isn't designed to see a lot of the stuff that we see.
Dude, I was gonna get there, but you beat me to now it's my turn to say that. I love the way you put that. You beat me to it because I was gonna go there too.
But the thing is like, sometimes it's, having those conversations, even with family and friends that are close to you, that may help with your mental health.
Mm,
One of the biggest things, I watch a lot of podcasts now. I read a lot of like motivating books now and everything. And I've
yeah,
changed my mindset from why me. I had a lot of why me
yeah,
complex,
yeah,
but now I've changed it to why not me?
correct.
Why not me? And, one of the things that, definitely helped was, you know, why are we so scared to talk to our spouses about what we go through? I've asked a couple of our guys at work and said, "Have you ever sat down with your spouse and asked them a simple question of what's okay for me to talk to?"
Mm,
And they're like, "Well, what do you mean?" I go, "That is your best friend. That is your biggest supporter. That is your support system." I
yeah,
go, "This job can change your behavior once you get home. Sometimes we don't have that change
yeah,
of going from the firefighter role to the husband wife role, whatever, the spouse role. We need that little bit of time to decompress." I go, "But if you sit there and you say, 'Hey, what's okay for me to talk about?' You'll be surprised that some people may turn around and go, 'Well, I want to know if something's bugging you, if there is a big call,
mm,
but I don't need to know the
yeah,
details.'" And I did this experiment with one of our captains that had been on 10, 15 years as a captain. And I'm like, "Listen, you have a whole family of firefighters and her family's firefighters. Does she actually know? Have you ever?" And she's like, "No." I go, "Well, let's try it." So he called her up. He goes, and she's like, "I want to know about the calls. I just don't want to know about details. I don't
yeah,
need."
yeah,
And I go, "Ask her this." I go, "If you come home and say I had 5 calls after midnight, does she know exactly what that means?" And he's like, "Well, what do you mean by that?" I go, "Well, okay, it means we're going to be tired. But from the time we're dispatched to the time we actually crawl back into bed
yeah,
is normally an hour. So
yeah,
that means from midnight to 5, we were technically up running calls. And then now at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning,
yeah,
we're getting up to get the station ready and then leaving
yeah,
by 8. You know, it kind of puts it a little bit more in perspective." And she sat there and she goes, "I never thought of it like that."
yeah,
And I spoke with Carolyn Acosta about that on her podcast. And she goes, "Never thought about that, of it that way,
yeah,
of that you're out there doing X, Y, and Z, you know." But it's one of those things that I think the communication is big when it comes to families and your spouse and everything,
it's
because
huge.
it's not the end of of what could end all relationship issues in the fire
Yeah,
service. We know the fire service, police service has one of the highest divorce rates and everything,
yep.
but it could stop a lot more of the arguments and everything.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think communication is key in so many
Yeah.
relationships, whether it's, you're in a marriage or a business or
Yeah.
a casual, like communication's key,
Yeah.
we can't read minds. And I counsel a lot of people, and you were talking about the past, and I try to teach people that the past, if we just keep it simple, because sometimes there's a lot of power in the simplicity,
Mhm.
and so if we just keep it simple, since the past has already happened, we can connect the dots looking backwards,
Yeah, and
so it's either an asset or a liability
yeah,
because each department there as a teacher, you can help. We can't connect the dots looking forward. You just can't do that. However, you can plan, but a lot of people try to plan the outcome,
yeah.
and I think that's where they get screwed. Planning's great. We have to plan, right? We
Mhm.
live in the world. We got this walk that we're doing until we take our last breath, and but a lot of people set themselves up, I think, for frustrations, expectations, resentments, conclusions, all that stuff when they're planning the outcome.
Yeah.
So you got this really demanding job. Um, and like you said, shift work is hard. You come home, everybody thinks, "Oh, gee, I'm home in my driveway." "Oh, how you doing, huh?" Like it
Yeah.
just doesn't go down like that. You know what I mean?
You
It's
look at it, the 24 hours, you could be having issues at home, and I go to work for 24 hours. Those issues don't go away just because I went to work.
yeah,
It just may be a quick timeout for 24 hours,
yeah.
or it could continue where the phone calls are still coming in. You're still having kind of that argument at work. And then guess what? When I go home, you're going to that same.
Yeah, and a lot of this planning home is I've planned the outcome.
Yeah.
So I had a heck of a shift. Then I'm coming home, and that's not going my way
Yeah.
either, or what I thought it was going to be. It's completely
Yeah.
different, and I lose my what. And here I am again. I might be drinking. I might be frustrated.
Yeah.
I might be out in the backyard thinking of, you know,
I think, one thing that helped me, especially with kind of getting rid of a lot of that stress and everything, is have you ever heard of the Hard 75 challenge?
no,
So the Hard 75 challenge is a is a workout challenge. It's 75 days and it's 2 45-minute workouts a day.
love it.
One has to be done outside. It could be anything: pickleball, yoga, walking, whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
One is inside.
yeah.
Then you have to read 10 pages of some motivational type book and everything
Nice. Daily? It's
daily.
just daily?
And then you have to drink a gallon of water a day
Oh, wow.
and follow a diet. And it's also no alcohol for 75 days, which,
Well,
for
I can do that. I'm celebrating
yeah,
19 years in
there you go.
April.
There you go. And after I hit my 3 kind of things, I was sitting there with a couple other guys and they were
Mm.
talking about it. I'm like, I'm gonna try that. I've never won big to be into the whole
Yeah,
fitness, but
that's
I'm
pretty
like,
cool, though. It sounds pretty, like, accomplished, like
so I ended up completing it,
oh, nice.
lost 30 pounds,
Whoa.
and it had changed my mindset completely. Of that's where my whole thing went from why me to why not me. The books I read, the podcasts I
Ah,
read. I'm a big follower of
love it.
a couple people, and I would love to meet them one day if I ever got the chance. One is Tim Tebow. His stuff is
Amazing,
phenomenal.
yeah.
Another gentleman is Inky Johnson,
Yep,
with his
amazing.
football
Oh
story
my
and
god, and his
everything.
stroke, right? Was it a
Well,
stroke or
no,
something?
he got hit in like his last football
Yeah,
game, and he like I think he ruptured his subclavian artery, and now he's paralyzed. And
yeah. Amazing.
just the message he brings and everything. Another one, and I kind of related to him a lot with what he did and everything, was Kevin Hines.
Don't know that
So
one.
Kevin Hines actually jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and survived.
Wow.
And he's one of like I think it's almost like 1% that survived with like barely any deficits. And he came out with a book called it's like The Art of Storytelling Saves Lives. And we talk about things coming full circle and
Mm,
everything like that. I was in the middle of doing the Hard 75. That was one of the books that I was reading.
mm,
And just going through it, he tells a little bit about his story, and then he goes off and lets other people tell their stories. And I had been reached out by a friend who had talked about how hadn't spoken to her in a while, and she mentioned how she was just having a little bit of a hard time. Any recommendation I could bring up about going through miscarriages and everything
mm.
like that. And I'm like, listen, I don't have any experience with that,
Mm.
and but let me see what I can find.
Yeah,
Give me a day or two.
yeah.
And so I started reading his. I went and read his book that night. the whole chapter was from someone that had been through a similar situation of miscarriages, started her own foundation and everything. And I'm like, I just dropped the book and I'm like, this is too real. This is like,
Yeah.
and I was able to send her the websites and everything
Yeah.
and like, hey, this is just what happened. I'm like, comes back to everything happens for a reason,
Yep.
and
Yep.
I look at things now to where, you know, when I talk to people and they know what I went through and everything, the term resiliency comes up a lot.
Mm.
And, I want people to know that you do have choices out there. You do have options. Suicide
Yep.
is a permanent solution
Yep.
to temporary problems.
Yep.
I hate when people turn around and say things like, oh, it's selfish. Oh, it's this. You don't know what's going through that person's mind at the time.
Yeah.
For me, I know when I was going through mine, I can pretty much guarantee I wasn't thinking straight. I wasn't thinking about the burden and stuff it
Yeah.
would put on my family. It was, they're not thinking straight. And I think about those ones that we have lost
Mm.
and like we always think about what did we miss?
Yeah.
We may not have missed anything.
No, because when the mind's corrupted, to that person, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Just like you stopping at a red light, it makes sense. It's
Yeah.
not to run it. When your mind is hijacked, man,
I mean, in South Florida, they're gonna run the red light. I mean, we
yeah,
have those
be
drivers.
careful
Yeah.
at red lights down here, South Floridians. No, but it's so true. It's kind of like, first responders. You guys are the bravest people I know. Like you are. You're the bravest people I know. But when it comes to you asking for help, you can't do it.
Why though?
Well, because I think a lot of stigma,
Pride?
pride, ego, stigma. They're gonna mock me, or I'm a, that's no way am I. Blah blah blah. It's bold. Asking for help, my friends, is very bold. Right? It's so bold. Most of us can't do it. That's how bold it is. Like, that's what I'm getting at. We can be there for everybody else on the heartbeat. We don't even think and if you're in the fire service like you got all these traumatic moments, life or death. You got a split second to respond. All this intense, and it's over and over and over. You guys go 0 to 100 over and over and over and over.
But I also think that, you know, it's not just us. It's working together with the police department. They're running the same calls we are. If not, they're running different calls also. It
Understood.
it's also the nursing staff and doctors at the hospital. I look at things
Oh
and
yeah.
I've made a lot of friends with the ER staff and everything. And I talk to them and we try and I want to try and bring resources for them also, the dispatchers, because I look at it, you look at we talk about CPR on someone, the chain of survival. I bring someone into the hospital no matter what's going on.
Yep.
Those nurses are now with that patient for however long it takes for maybe them to get moved to a floor,
Yep.
or maybe if they don't make it. Well, now that nurse and that doctor have to go deal with the family and have the burden, and I wouldn't say burden, but the task of going to tell a loved one that they lost someone.
I
I've
can.
I've done that a few times in my career on scene of having to tell us, "Hey, sorry,
Yeah.
there's nothing we can do."
Yeah.
And it's a killer.
Yeah.
But now you think about these emergency room doctors and everything, they're almost doing it on a daily basis with these nurses that are, they're
Very
helping
traumatic.
they're helping out with the family and everything as the patient's laying there,
Yeah.
they're bringing them water, juices,
Yeah.
giving them information, bringing
Yeah.
in the meds and everything. And it's, you know,
It's heavy, man. It's
they're
very
going home
heavy.
too to their stuff. And, yes, we all pick to be in these professions and
Yeah.
everything, but that's where I think also the canine therapies play a big role and
Yeah.
stuff.
Huge.
I've
Huge.
seen it to where we brought in a couple of the dogs into the ER
Yeah.
and oh my God,
Yeah.
their faces light up and everything. And it's,
Yeah.
I think we can do a better job of all of us
Yeah.
working together
Yeah.
because a lot of the time, if it's a serious enough call, guess what? I'm running it with PD.
Yep.
We're going to the hospital.
Yep.
I'm changing it over to the ER staff. And then when I come back into the hospital, I'm going to probably walk up to that nurse and be like, hey,
Yeah.
what happened with that?
Yeah.
Because we're kind of those people that we wonder. Sometimes we don't. But there's a lot of times, or hey, this is what happened with
Yeah.
that patient.
Same team, different uniforms.
Yeah. We're
I've done a lot of trainings. I did not maybe within the last year, I was in a dispatch office at a police station,
hmm
and you got to hear the call itself
Yeah.
with the dispatcher that took the call. As a counselor, I was just watching her. I
Yeah.
wanted to see what it would do for her, to her too, and she still, you could just tell took her right back to that moment.
hmm
You could tell by her body language she was getting uncomfortable, and you could hear it in her voice once the call was
Yeah.
over. And it's doing these trainings, I'm sure you're aware. They're just such a wake up call that most people don't think about.
Yeah.
All these things. I heard I was in the back of a box. What's the real name for him?
The
Not
rescue.
the rescue.
Yeah.
I call him the box because you guys call
Same
him the
thing.
box.
Box, the rescue.
The rescue. And we had picked up a fellow who wasn't doing too good, and they were bringing him, and there was a lieutenant in the truck with me. What a wonderful guy. I really wanted, me to get the most I could out of the experience. And, I was asking him, do you ever get over this? Or, what's still something you can't get over? Instead of asking like, oh, tell me about your worst call. That's like the
Mhm.
worst thing what is something that you still can't get over? And he was saying when he has the intubate, intubate, is that how am
Yeah.
I saying it right? That's always one of those words that get me.
Mhm.
Because you have to paralyze them initially, right? So you can get the thing down so they
Yeah.
don't the reflux
Mhm.
there, right? And then you have to bring them back out of it, kind of, right? Or something. I don't know. It was a very weird process he had and
I think we all have different
ways of
different things.
doing it
Yeah. And well, not even just ways of doing it, of just things that
that are still difficult.
that are difficult
Yeah,
for us and everything.
yeah,
But you spoke about the dispatcher. I want to go back to that for a second.
yeah.
You talk about you watched her get that call and everything.
Yeah, oh, yeah. You could tell
So
the way it affected her. Yeah.
so now let me run this by you. So you're listening to that dispatcher. She takes another call. It's now for a mom on the other end of the line that's saying her baby's not breathing.
Mm.
She's now giving instructions of
Phew.
CPR to the mom. High stress environment.
Whew.
Well, here I come walking on scene. Well, fire rescue's on scene. Phone gets hung up. What happens 10, 15 seconds later? 911, what's your emergency? Well, we're working that call.
Mm.
She's already could be on her third, fourth call,
Yeah.
and who knows what it is.
Yeah, man.
So they never kind of get that kind of
Yeah.
pause, that break and
Yeah.
everything. So, I like to include the dispatchers in our debriefings
Oh,
because,
100%. Yeah.
they they sometimes reach out to us, hey, what happened? Or they hear the other dispatchers because, the call taker is going to be different to the dispatcher. Hey,
Yeah.
what happened with that? Oh, I heard them call it.
Yeah.
Or hey, they went to the hospital working the code.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with some of the police officers.
Yeah.
Some stay on scene, some come with us,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then dropping them off at the hospital.
Yeah.
We don't know, did they go to surgery? Did they make it out of surgery? But it's I think the hardest ones for me of the calls that I hate running and everything are the neglect calls.
Mm.
Because that's something that could be prevented. That's just ignorance on
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. That's got to be a tough one.
You go in and and especially I would say the child ones.
Mm.
Because the child doesn't know any better. That's just
Yeah.
I think that's ignorant on the parents.
I've done a lot of miles with a lot of
Yeah.
firefighters. I've heard a lot of child,
Oh yeah.
so hey, man, I got to move into the wrap up.
Well, one
Uh,
thing I wanna leave you with
awesome.
a couple sayings and everything that I heard that I kind of retell myself and maybe it will help someone else. There's a saying out there that if you never fail, because fail just means your first attempt in learning.
Correct.
If you get told no, it just means your next opportunity. And it's never the end because effort never dies.
I love it.
I read that all the way through and everything. And then
Yeah.
I heard a simple one and it was so silly. A simple one that a glow stick doesn't shine brightly until it's actually been broken.
Oh, I love the cornier the better because
Yeah.
they make so much sense and they're really simple.
Yeah.
Like I love corny stuff because it's simple.
Yeah.
It's true because everybody's got, I don't know, so many people got to intellectualize everything and they just get totally outmaneuvered
Yeah.
instead of just in certain
Mhm.
just keep it simple. The power's in the simplicity,
Mhm.
not the complexity. We've been, our reach keeps growing, and we might have come across a first responder today because, like you said, it's always just that one person,
Mhm.
always after that one person. If that happens to be the case, which I don't know, and I'm not in the business of outcomes, I'm just in the business of doing what you and I did for the last hour, the message. How would they get in touch with you?
So they can on my Instagram. I
Okay.
do have one for it's coming out of the storm. They
Mm,
can reach me through there and
okay.
everything. And if anyone is looking for resources and everything like that, they can the my messages are open on there, so they can reach out to me on there, and
Yeah.
whatever resources they need, I can
Yeah.
push them in that direction and everything. So, or if they need me to speak or whatever, it's
Okay.
this is kind of like medicine for me. I love doing this stuff because
Yeah.
I hope to, like we said before, reach that
Yeah.
one person that could be out there. And I don't care if I know who that person is. I'm
Yeah.
not. It's not about that. It's
Yeah.
about getting the message out there, getting the resources out there,
Yeah.
and looking at it of the way of we look at doctors, cardiologists.
Yeah.
You could go to 2 or 3 different cardiologists and, "Okay, I like this one." Same thing when you're looking for a clinician and the resources that out there. This may work for you, this may
Yeah.
we
Somebody for everybody, right?
we joke about it that, be open-minded when you're looking for a therapist when we're sending you. It could be like dating.
Yeah.
We talk about swiping on a dating app.
Yeah.
It could be the same thing. "Hey,
Yeah.
this first one doesn't work. Alright,
Yeah.
move on to the next."
Yeah.
But we have multiple ones for a reason, for
And
that reason.
almost endless, really.
Yeah.
There's so many great people out
Mhm.
there. Hey, I can attest to Drew's commitment to not only the fire service, but to the community at large, and to somebody who may be struggling. He walked many, many miles with me. I walked 100 miles to continue to bring this awareness, especially for towards mental health for our first responders. And he was there for many, many steps with me, and that means a lot because not most people, I don't know, I guess I'll just go through most people aren't, but that's okay, through, commitment, you always find the other committed.
Mhm.
So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure to have you. My name's Tim. I'm all over social media too, like Drew. You can get me at tim.r@beachway.com. And you can ask either one of us anything you like. And I know between the two of us, we got your back. Or should we say we got your six?
We got your 6.
We got your six. Until next time, Drew and I wish you peace and love. Take it easy, everybody.